Hello guys, we are back in new fanfic, and if enjoying this then please share and like part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. The moon shone brightly down upon the village hidden in the leaves. For most of those who lived there, it was a perfect night. But for one certain ninja, it was perhaps one of the worst nights of his life. In a somewhat decaying apartment, a blonde, 16-year-old ninja stared at the ceiling above his bed. How is it possible? He thought. How can a life go so wrong in so little time? Naruto Uzumaki thought back to the beginning of the week. Teams Kakashi and Kurenai had barely returned from their failed mission to capture Itachi Uchiha, when Naruto was summoned to Lady Tsunade's office. There, he learned that his mentor, Jiraiya, had been killed in combat against the Akatsuki leader. Flashback. What? Naruto said softly, not quite believing what he had just been told. I'm sorry, Naruto. I wish I hadn't sent him on that mission. Tsunade seemed close to tears, as she told Naruto the truth. She was barely even able to look at him. Naruto's head was bowed, tears threatening to spill from his eyes. But he realized what Tsunade was feeling as well. He looked up at her, and put on as brave as a face as possible. It's all right, Granny Tsunade, he said with as much courage as possible. As she looked up, surprise in her eyes, Naruto gave her a sad smile. He was a ninja, and did what he needed to do. You were just doing what you needed to do when you sent him. As she began to cry, Naruto gently touched her shoulder. Please don't think I hate you. I can't hate you for doing your job. Tsunade looked at him with gratitude. Thank you. You don't know what this means. She picked up a scroll on her desk. He sent this for you, before he died. I have already looked through it. I hope you don't mind. End flashback. Naruto looked at the scroll on the table next to his bed. He had taken it home, and opened the seal written in it. There had been a letter, several books on jutsus, and a scroll covered in several powerful seals. He read the letter first, hoping for an explanation. In it, he learned about Pain, the leader of the Akatsuki, and his Dujutsu, the Rinnegan. He also learned that the scroll contained the yin chakra of the Kyuubi, which surprised him. He never knew he had only half of the fox sealed in him. But what came next had really floored him. Jiraiya had explained in the last part of the letter that the scroll could only be opened by one who had the blood of the one who had sealed it. Jiraiya's letter revealed that Naruto was the son of the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Naruto remembered how he had stared at that for hours. He was the son of the legendary fourth Hokage. His father had saved the village, by sealing the Kyuubi in him. Naruto understood what his father had done, but it still came as a shock. The letter finally concluded with the instructions on how to join the yin and yang chakra, when Naruto was ready. That had only been the first day. 2 days later, with Naruto still trying to adjust to the fact that he was the son of the fourth, disaster had struck him again. One villager, an old man, had finally had enough. He hated Kyuubi for slaughtering his son when it had attacked. When he saw the way that Naruto was being treated, like a normal person, he lost it. He went through the village, yelling, "The Kyuubi lives! The Kyuubi lives in that scum, Naruto Uzumaki." Most of the villagers and shinobi already knew this, and didn't really care. But there were those who didn't know the truth yet. Specifically, 9 ninja who were Naruto's friends and allies didn't know. From Naruto's understanding, they were all shocked. Sai and Sakura, having witnessed Kyuubi's power, already knew the truth, and were unaffected. But from what they had told Naruto, the others weren't taking the news well. Naruto, assuming the worst, had locked himself away in his apartment for 2 days. Until that day, the worst in Naruto's life. Flashback. Naruto. Come on, you need to get out of here. The pink-haired Kunoichi grabbed her blonde teammate, intent on getting him to leave his apartment. Kakashi Hatake and Sai stood nearby. Just leave me alone, Sakura. I don't want to go out. Well, you're going to, dummy. Get up, and get your jacket on. Now. Naruto sighed, and slipped his black and orange jacket on. Fine. Just don't expect me to enjoy it. Kakashi raised his visible eyebrow. Even if we were taking you to Ichiraku Ramen. Naruto gave a little smile. Well, maybe I'll enjoy it a little. Sakura shook her head. What had happened to him? She knew he had been through some serious hardships, but he had never acted like this before. It was like he was someone else. They left Naruto's apartment, and the four of them headed down the street. They had barely rounded the corner, when Naruto, a green blur appeared before them. He wore a green leotard, orange leg warmers, a green vest, a bowl haircut, and had huge bushy brows. Naruto, how are you? Rock Lee yelled in a very loud voice. Lee, any chance you could quiet down a bit? Naruto stuck a finger in his ear and wiggled it. Forgive me, but it is indeed a great honor to be in the presence of such a great hero. Naruto looked at him in surprise. Huh, Lee looked at him in surprise. You hold the Kyuubi. You have protected the village from many years. You are a hero. I just wished Neji and Tenten thought so too. Naruto shrugged. I expected that. Don't worry that much. He smiled and smacked Lee on the back. Knowing you are on my side is more than enough. Sakura smiled and kissed Lee on the cheek. This is so great, Lee. Thank you. Lee blushed. Blood spurted from his nose, and he fainted. Naruto smiled at a startled Sakura. You should know better. Let's get him to the hospital. No need. I shall help my prized pupil. Might Guy, Lee's sensei, leapt down, and picked up Lee. It was obvious where Lee had got his fashion sense from. Naruto, it has always been an honor to be near a hero like you. Farewell, and may the passion of youth flame in you always. With that, he leapt away. Naruto smiled. Maybe this wasn't such a bad idea after all. Sai nodded. It is better to have one true friend, instead of many false friends. Kakashi smiled as he read his familiar orange-covered book. That's true. Things went up from there. Shikamaru and Choji came up to him. Naruto, why didn't you tell me you were a hero? We could have had a party to honor you. Choji's stomach growled. Which would have been so troublesome. Shikamaru said, before smiling at Naruto. You know, I always knew you were tough and different. But I didn't know you were that tough. Remind me not to mess with you. Naruto noted the smile on Shikamaru. Good idea, lazy boy. So you two don't mind knowing the truth about me? Nope, not at all. Cool. Thanks guys. This really means a lot to me. He hugged them both, and shook their hands. As they left he yelled, Inoue no go. Shikamaru turned and shook his head. Sorry. We'll work on her. Naruto waved as he turned away, smiling his old smile. He seemed to be coming back to his old self. Sakura, Sai, and Kakashi smiled at each other. What happened next shattered Naruto's hope at things being alright. They were almost to Ichiraku Ramen, when they ran into Kiba and Shino. As soon as they saw Naruto, they both jumped back, turned, and ran. Naruto watched them, then looked around. She wasn't there. The one she really wanted to see. His smile slipped. Guys, have you heard anything about Hinata? The others looked at each other with looks of concern. Sakura finally answered. She kinda disappeared, after she found out. She's been in her home ever since. Naruto's face and heart plummeted. He looked down at his feet. Right. He stood there, then looked up with his grin. Thanks guys, but I'm not hungry. How about some other time? He suddenly leapt away before they could answer, and was jumping along rooftops back to his place. Before he had left, Sakura saw the tears that had suddenly began to fall from his eyes. Does he? Sakura asked out loud. End flashback. Naruto had kept to himself afterwards. He sat in his home, and read over the books and scrolls Jiraiya had left him. Then, under the cover of a transformation, he would practice the skills he had learned. But it wasn't why he was laying there, waiting for an old friend. He had told Tsunade of his intent to leave with a friend and trainer for 6 months. They would train in the forest surrounding the village, where they wouldn't be bothered, but would be on hand if needed. Tsunade didn't like it, until Naruto had pointed out that the training would make him strong enough to withstand Akatsuki. Tsunade had finally agreed. A shadow knocked on Naruto's door. He quickly grabbed his pack off the floor, and left the apartment. The shadow nodded, and disappeared. Naruto immediately headed for the gate at the southern wall. When he arrived, he was surprised to find both Tsunade and Sakura waiting with his trainer, the shadowy figure. Sakura, Granny Tsunade, what are you two doing here? We wanted to see you off. We wanted you to know that you will be missed. Tsunade nodded. Everyone who supports you wanted to come, but it would draw too much attention. Naruto smiled. Thanks. This really means a lot to me. Sakura smiled, and hugged him. Any requests before you go? Naruto looked down, unsure. Then he looked up. Yeah, can you look after Hinata for me, while I'm gone? Sakura sighed. You like her? Huh. Naruto looked down again. I'm sorry, Sakura, but the truth is, I've always liked you like a sister. I just asked you out so you wouldn't feel bad every time Sasuke turned you down. Sakura smiled. Don't worry. I understand, and I will take care of Hinata, just for you. It will be my way of saying thanks. Naruto smiled. He shared one last hug with both Tsunade and Sakura, before turning to his partner. They both nodded, and headed out of the gate. Naruto turned as the gates began to close. He saw Sakura and Tsunade wave, just before the gates sealed. He turned to the road before him, and steeled himself. When I come back, I will no longer be a threat to the village. I will be strong enough to protect everyone. Naruto stepped out, trailing behind the shadowy figure who moved ahead into the forest. 6 months later, 2 figures passed under the gate of the Hidden Leaf Village. They both stopped and looked around at the buildings and the people. One wore a dull, dark green cloak, with a hood pulled up over his head. The lower part of his face was hidden behind a bandana tied in place. His blue eyes calmly surveyed every person nearby, noting which were ninjas, and carried weapons. A few brown bangs fell over his forehead. A hand, covered in a fingerless glove, emerged from the cloak, and adjusted a longbow on his back. The bow sat in a quiver filled with long arrows, each one flighted with black feathers. A sword scabbard was secured above the quiver, with the hilt of the 3-foot-long blade peering over the shoulder of its owner. A triangular shield, with another swept point at the top, also rested on his back. He turned to his companion, who was staring up at the face of the 4th Hokage. The second man stood a few inches taller, at roughly 6 feet. He seemed to have a thing for black. He had on loose black pants, and a black t-shirt. The pants and shirt had red, orange, and yellow flames along their bottoms, and the t-shirt sported a red swirl, with a fox head over it. He had on black combat boots, with metal toes. Over all of this, he wore a black coat, similar to the 4th Hokage robes, but with sleeves. The same flame design licked the bottom of the coat. His hands were covered in fingerless gloves, that were backed by black metal forearm gauntlets, which covered his knuckles and up into the coat. No one could really identify this man, as he wore a face mask similar to the legendary Kakashi. He also had a black bandana covering the top of his head. A long man of blonde hair fell out from under it. He also wore sunglasses, similar to the ones Shino Aburame wore as a genin. A 3.5-foot katana on his back completed his outfit. The few villagers and ninja nearby watched him carefully, despite the black-clothed Leaf Village headband around his forehead. But he just turned to the guard booth. He almost seemed to smile as he spotted a blonde kunoichi, and her loud-mouthed companion. I'm so bored. Why does the Hokage always assign us guard duty? When am I going on a real mission again? Shut up, Kiba. I'm so tired of your whining. You and I both know why we're here. Yeah, just because of the way we treated Naruto. So what? He's a demon, how are we supposed to treat him? Maybe, but he's always had our back. And I've never really seen him lose control of it. Maybe we were. Don't go soft on me. He's got you know what in him. The coat man approached the booth, with the cloaked figure following him. He stopped in front of the post, gaining the squabbling ninja's attention. Trainee and Trainer Team 1573, reporting back in. Ino opened a schedule book, and slowly looked over the numbers. 1573, 1573. Here we are. 6-month training period, 4. She gasped, looked up at the figure, and promptly fainted. Kiba looked at her still form. What's her problem? He took a look at the person, then down at the book. His eyes widened, and he slowly looked back up. The coat figure chuckled. What up, dog boy? Kiba joined Ino on the ground. The figure shrugged, and turned to the big white dog sitting nearby. Hey Akamaru, how you been? The dog barked as the two figures headed to the Hokage Tower. XXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Several minutes later, they were sitting in the lobby outside the Hokage's office. They reported who they were to Shizune, who was waiting for confirmation from the guard booth. Eventually, the phone rang, and Shizune hit the intercom button. Ino's shaky voice came over the line. Training, T-Team 1573, has reported in. Shizune chuckled. A little late, Ino. They're already here. She hung up, left her desk, and knocked on the Hokage's door. Tsunade's voice echoed out to them. What is it? I'm busy right now. Shizune opened the door. One of the training teams has returned, Lady Tsunade. Well, send them in. Shizune nodded, and turned away from the door, allowing the two figures to enter. They both came forward, and bowed, respectfully saying, Lady Hokage. She looked up at both of them, slightly confused. Which team are you? The cloaked figure spoke up, his voice surprisingly normal sounding for such a deadly-looking figure. Quote, she looked at them, then quickly looked at her register. As soon as she saw the name of the trainee, she looked up at them in shock. The man in the coat chuckled. Got ya, Granny Tsunade. Naruto. Tsunade leapt up, and hugged the 16-year-old ninja. Surprisingly, her strength didn't seem to bother him. He just hugged her back with one arm, while pulling down his face mask with the other. As she pulled away, he took off his sunglasses, and gave her a smile. Tsunade immediately noted some changes in Naruto. Besides his change in clothes, his eyes, while still bright, seemed to be more intelligent than she had ever seen. His smile was still as bright as ever, but it seemed more mature. The long hair caught her attention, and it immediately made her think that he could easily be mistaken for his father. She decided the training must have done wonders on him. It's good to have you back. This village is way too quiet without you. It's good to be back. You haven't met my trainer yet. Lady Tsunade, this is Arashin Uzuma, last survivor of the nomadic ranger clan. Tsunade looked at the cloaked figure, who lowered the bandana around his lower face. Ranger clan. Arashin smiled. We were a group of ninjas trained in several ancient arts, as well as tracking, kenjutsu, and marksmanship in every form of weapon. Tsunade looked him up and down, impressed at the skills mentioned. Your clan was nomadic. Arashin nodded. Our village was wiped out in the early ninja wars. The clan looked after itself, wandering in search of a home. The ranger's face fell. 7 years ago, when I was 10, our clan was wiped out by the forces of the rock village. I alone survived. Tsunade gently placed a hand on Arashin's shoulder. I'm sorry. It's all right. Anyways, I wandered on my own, carrying the scrolls and records of my clan. About 3 years ago, I ran into Naruto and Jiraiya, while they were training. I trained with them a bit, then left, offering my services to them if they ever needed it. So you came and trained Naruto. I hope you were able to give him plenty of instruction. Not really. I helped him to infuse the yin chakra, and taught him how to wield a sword. It was Kyuubi who gave Naruto most of his training. Tsunade seemed stunned for a moment. What? Naruto smiled. It's complicated, and I don't want to have to explain multiple times. I know you want to test my abilities, so how about you call Team Kakashi, and I'll show you whatever you want to see. Tsunade shook herself out of her stupor. Right. I've been keeping Team Kakashi inactive for the past few days, just for you. Tsunade went to the door. Shizune, contact Kakashi, and tell him to get his team to training ground number 41. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX In the distance was a stretch of woods, with a river flowing along. Within minutes, 4 figures approached. Naruto, his face mask and sunglasses back in place, turned to Tsunade. Who's the new guy? I had to fill your spot, so I got a new Chunin to take your place. He specializes in taijutsu, with a smattering of nin and genjutsu. I believe his name is Daichi. He was a classmate of Konohamaru's. Right. Thanks. Team Kakashi approached, and looked over Arishin and Naruto without recognizing them. You summoned us, Lady Hokage. Kakashi bowed to her. Yes. I need you to test the abilities of this ninja here. She indicated Naruto. When I know his abilities, and how he works, I'll be able to properly rank him. Kakashi looked at the man in the coat. His eye immediately caught sight of the long blonde hair, and it widened. Sensei. Naruto shook his head, smiling behind his mask. No, but you're close. Sakura's eyes widened at the voice. Naruto. Naruto smiled even more as he removed his sunglasses. Got it in one, Sakura. Naruto. She glomped on him, hugging him tightly. He hugged her back. She backed up and looked at him. What happened to you? You mean the clothes? I actually have a surprise. I never really liked orange that much. It was just part of my image. What? Sakura looked at him in surprise. Heh, I guess I have a confession. That whole, loud, idiot routine. That was a cover. I'm actually pretty smart, and not that obnoxious. Then why did you act like that? Sakura couldn't believe Naruto's persona had been an act. Well, if everyone hated you, would you act smart, and give them more to fear? Sakura looked at him for a moment. No, I guess I wouldn't. That was pretty smart. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Yeah, the outfit is also pretty intimidating, isn't? Tsunade butted in. I hate to interrupt, but we have a testing to begin. Naruto smiled, and put his glasses back on. Right. He turned to the others. Sai, Kakashi, you guys ready to rumble? Kakashi smiled. If you can, bring it. Sai pulled out his scroll and ink. I will give my all. Sakura pulled her gloves on. I don't think this will be fair. Daichi put on a confident smile. 4-on-1. Piece of cake. Naruto turned to Tsunade. How did you find another me? Tsunade rolled her eyes. He's nothing like Konohamaru. With that, the 5 ninjas disappeared in different directions. Tsunade watched the tree line. She had heard the 2 exclamations, and could only assume Naruto had pulled a fast one. Now he would have the advantage. 10 minutes after the test began, Naruto came out, bearing a stupefied Sakura over his shoulder. Tsunade looked at her apprentice in shock. What did you do to her? I put her in a time-freezing genjutsu. For her, it will seem like no time has passed since I caught her. A second Naruto came out, dragging an unconscious Sai, who was sporting a bump on his head. A third carried a paralyzed Daichi over his shoulder, with the Chunin yelling and cursing the whole time. Suddenly, Kakashi flew out of the woods, throwing a kunai over his shoulder. The Naruto pursuing him deflected it with his drawn katana. They both faced each other on the open field. Kakashi quickly ran through several hand signs. Water style, water dragon jutsu. A massive plume of water rose from the river, and formed into a dragon. Just as it was bearing down on Naruto, he performed his own hand signs. Protective Earth Dome Jutsu. A dome of solid rock surrounded Naruto, and the water dragon splashed against. Suddenly, Naruto erupted from the ground in front of Kakashi, and struck Kakashi's right shoulder with his fingertips. Kakashi's arm went limp, soon followed by the left arm, and both legs. Kakashi started to fall, but Naruto caught him, and carried him over to the others. Tsunade was indeed impressed. It took you only 11 minutes to disable them. How? Naruto smiled as his clones poofed away. I spent 6 months training. You don't think I didn't learn anything? As Naruto released the jutsus on his teammates, Tsunade shook her head. But from what I saw, you were at least Haijunin. Was Arashin really able to train you to the rank in only 6 months? Arashin shook his head. No, I didn't. In truth, all I really did was help Naruto integrate the yin chakra of the Kyuubi. After that, I taught him Kenjutsu, and made his aim perfect. His real teachers were Kyuubi and everything Jiraiya and the Namikaze clan left him. Daichi gave Kakashi a confused look. Namikaze. I knew that the fourth was Minato Namikaze, but I didn't know they had a clan. Naruto shook his head. We did, once. The Namikaze were among the most capable fighters in the village. They were the first into battle, the last to leave the field. Eventually, the warfare and constant battles took their toll, until the clan was reduced to one man. My father, Minato Namikaze. So you learned about your clans and the abilities they knew. But what did the Kyuubi teach you? Naruto smiled. He didn't necessarily teach me, as much as I gained all his knowledge. I actually needed to tell you this, but the Kyuubi is actually quite misunderstood. Everyone but Arashin gave Naruto the big, white eyes, jaws hitting the ground look. What? Naruto nodded. It's true. The thing is, the yin chakra actually contained the Kyuubi's long-term memories. When it was added to Kyuubi, he suddenly remembered everything before he woke up inside of me. Naruto's face fell. It was one big misunderstanding. On the night he attacked, a ninja had entered his den, and trapped his mate and 7 kits into a summoning contract. Naruto's face slowly turned to anger. It was Orochimaru. He was still posing as a leaf ninja. Kyuubi got the contract, but Orochimaru slipped away. Kyuubi attacked the village he saw responsible for ruining his happiness. But he learned the truth as my father sealed him in me. Before his chakra was separated, he promised my father he would do whatever it took to make up for his terrible error. Naruto shook his head and wiped away a tear that had formed in one eye. His head perked up suddenly, then he nodded. Granny, Kyuubi wants to talk to you. Before Tsunade could respond, Naruto's voice changed. Lady Hokage, I am the Kyuubi. I want you to know that I am truly sorry for all the suffering I have caused the village. I know that no matter what I do, I can never undo what I have done. But please believe me that I will do whatever I can to help the village. Tsunade was taken aback. Every story she had heard about Kyuubi had made him out to be a mindless killing machine. Yet here he was, apologizing, and promising to protect the village. It was altogether confusing. Judging from the looks on Team Kakashi's faces, they felt the same way she did. Finally, she came to a decision. Kyuubi, if you mean what you say, then promise me this. Swear that you will help Naruto become the best he can be. As far as the village goes, most of the people in it don't deserve your sympathy. Naruto, Kyuubi growled. You are right. And yet, the kid still wishes to protect them, even as they hate and despise him. He wants nothing more than to ensure that no one suffers as he has. I truly believe that when Naruto Namikaze becomes Hokage, he may unite all the world in peace. Naruto suddenly jerked, and shook his head. That still feels weird. So, anything else, Granny? Tsunade glared at him. I let you call me that the last few times, just because I was happy to see you. Do it one more time, and I may have to hurt you. Then she smiled. So, what exactly is the full extent of your abilities? I think we only got a taste of them here. Naruto smiled. Right. Well, with my chakra alone, I can perform over 2,000 different jutsu, most of which are C to S ranked. I can also freely use the Myrazan Shuriken, without getting hurt. I even upgraded it again. Naruto held out his right hand. Suddenly, the familiar blue swirl of chakra formed into the Rasengan. Then, several blades of wind formed around it, creating the Shuriken form. Naruto pointed to one tree. Watch this. Naruto pulled his right hand back, like he was about to throw it, and throw it he did. He released it like a normal shuriken, and it whistled through the air at breakneck speeds. When it hit the tree, the trunk disintegrated. There was actually nothing left of the tree. The ninja present all looked at Naruto with absolute awe. He merely shrugged. I have 19 more of those left in me. 19. Sakura stammered. She had seen what the Rasen Shuriken did to the body of an enemy. Naruto could effectively wipe out a squad with one. With 20, he could take on an army. Yeah, oh, I also mastered another of my father's jutsus. Naruto suddenly disappeared in a yellow flash, reappearing behind Kakashi. Recognize it. You learned the Hirishin. Tsunade felt very weak. The Hirishin alone would allow Naruto to wipe out an army by himself. This was too much. How? Well, Kyuubi helped me understand the principles. Basically, the Hirishin works by opening a hole in time and space. You can use it to basically open a door in between where you are and where you want to go. The problem is, over a distance, the second opening is very weak and not well anchored. That's where these came in. Naruto held up a tri-pronged kunai knife, which had a seal on the handle. That's the kunai Minato sensei carried. Kakashi exclaimed. Right. The thing is, it's not the kunai. It's the seal. The seal effectively acts as an anchor for your second opening, thus allowing you to move from point A to point B. Of course, that's only the basics of it. Getting the jutsu down is still extremely difficult, and needs large amounts of chakra. Unbelievable. This alone puts you on Hokage level. You could probably face me in combat and win. Tsunade was impressed. Sai, however, had caught what Naruto had said earlier. And this is with only your chakra. Yeah, when I use the Kyuubi's chakra, things are different. Tsunade looked at him. What do you mean? Well, there's so much power, I can only really use Rasengan, shadow clones, and other jutsus that require huge amounts of power. However, I gain increased speed, strength, reflexes, and I'm dang near invincible. I actually can use up to 7 tails. Really? Naruto nodded, and closed his eyes. Suddenly, the Kyuubi's chakra burst forth. But unlike all the other times, this was different. The chakra, once a blood red, was now pure gold. It formed around Naruto, into the fox mantle. Naruto's nails grew longer, as 7 tails of chakra formed. His whisker marks widened, and his canines extended. When he opened his eyes, they were gold as well. But they looked normal otherwise. They still held their laughter, along with intelligence, and an understanding of suffering. Naruto smiled at them all. What do you think? Amazing, right? No one spoke. 3 Chunin, 1 Junin, and 1 Sanin Hokage stood there with their mouths opened. Arishin stepped forward. Unfortunately, Naruto's body can't take the full power of the 8th or 9th tails yet. But, given time to adjust, his body could soon cope with that much power. As it stands, Naruto still has the ability to level a ninja village by himself. Tsunade nodded. I can believe that. Naruto frowned as he released the power. Maybe. But I've sworn an oath about this power. I've seen what greedy men, and those who are angry can do with power. I'm not going to be the same. I've sworn to never use this power, unless in the defense of the village, and my comrades. I did this so I could be strong enough to protect my friends, not level enemy cities. Suddenly, he remembered one person he had sworn to protect. One person for whom he had done all this in particular. He turned to Sakura. Hey, how's Hinata? Everyone but Arishin immediately winced. Naruto dropped his head. What happened? He asked softly. Tsunade was hesitant. Well, you see, a couple days after you left, she kinda came, looking for you. Sakura picked up from there. Apparently, she had been thinking things over, while she had been in her house. Eventually, she decided she didn't care that you had Kyuubi. She wanted to tell you that herself, and that she would stand by you. Naruto's heart soared to new heights. Hinata accepted him. This was wonderful. Then Sakura started up again. When she found out you were gone, and for 6 months, she was traumatized. She blamed herself, thinking that you left feeling betrayed by her. No matter what we told her, she believed you hated her, and that you left because she hadn't been there to support you. Tsunade jumped back in. Her abilities diminished over the following month. By the end of it, she couldn't fight an academy student. I was forced to pull her off the active duty. When the Hyuga elders found out, they were so angry, they actually forced Hiyashi to choose between putting the caged bird seal on Hinata and making her a servant, or disowning her. In the end, he disowned her. Naruto slumped to the ground, completely in shock. That wasn't how he had felt at all. If anything, he had felt that he had betrayed Hinata, along with everyone else. He hadn't trusted them enough to tell them his secret, and therefore betrayed their trust in him. He looked down at the ground, as he hesitantly asked, "Where is she now?" Sakura knelt next to him. "She's been living with me. I promised you I would take care of her, and I did, brother." Naruto looked up at Sakura with gratitude. "Thank you, Sakura. But now I need to make things right." He stood up, and turned to Tsunade. "Is that everything?" Tsunade nodded. "Well, I can say without a doubt that you are beyond Hokage level. But unfortunately, since I'm Hokage, and there is no other rank above Junin, that's what I'm promoting you to. There will be an official announcement tomorrow, but your presence is not required. Especially since most people would try to stone you." Naruto nodded. Inside his mind, he and Kyuubi were talking. "Q, what do I do about Hinata? You need to talk to her. Tell her the truth about how you feel. All of it. I know, but she would probably run from me if I tried to talk to her. Maybe if she didn't know it was you, that would work. Maybe. That's it." Naruto turned to Tsunade. "Has Namikaze been reinstated in the council?" "Yes, and since you are of age, you are now the head of the Namikaze clan. Of course, there is no one else to take the job, so. Fine. Then Friday evening, at 6 o'clock, I will be hosting a dinner. Tsunade, you and Shizune are invited." He turned to Sakura. "As are you and Hinata. Make sure she comes, but don't tell her it's me." "All right." Both women nodded, and Naruto sighed. He needed to get ready. He turned to the others, who were watching him in interest. "I know you guys probably want to catch up, but right now, I have some things to take care of. When everything is settled, I promise we'll all go out and have a good time." "Deal." Everyone nodded, understanding that Naruto was stressed. He quickly bowed to them, and ran off, Arashin at his heels. Naruto's face was set and determined. "Just hold on, Hinata. Wait a little longer, and everything will be okay. I promise." The sun was beginning to set over the village. 4 women, somewhat more dressed up than normal, walked towards the more prestigious part of the village. The 2 up front were adults. One, a blonde, wore the robes and hat of the Hokage. The raven-haired woman behind her wore a gray-black robe, and carried a pig in a red vest. The 2 behind them were teenage girls. The pink, short-haired girl wore a long red dress, and red high heels. The other girl had indigo hair, which she wore long. 2 bangs framed her face. She wore a conservative lavender dress, and purple high heels. She walked slowly, with her head down the whole time. "Hinata, come on. Cheer up a little. Isn't this exciting? We're going to get to meet the son of the 4th Hokage." Hinata lifted her head, revealing her opal eyes. They were almost devoid of emotion, except despair. Sorry. I will do better." Sakura gently pulled Hinata close to her, so they could talk privately. "Hinata, I want you to be happy because you want to be happy. Don't be happy because I tell you to." Hinata just looked at her, then lowered her eyes. Sakura just shook her head. "I hope this works. This girl deserves to be happy." The 4 of them continued on. The area they entered had been home to 5 of the most prestigious and powerful clans in the village. The Senju, Hyuga, Sarutobi, Uchiha, and Namikaze had all had their clan homes built here. Now, 3 estates remained. The Senju clan, from which the 1st and 2nd Hokage had come from, was extinct, except for Tsunade. The Uchiha had been wiped out by Itachi Uchiha. The Sarutobi, even though they were slowly growing smaller, still had a strong presence. The Hyuga clan were the main dominant force in the area. Their estate had slowly encroached upon the territory once held by the Uchiha. The Namikaze estate, even though everyone thought the Namikaze were extinct, had been kept intact. Now, everyone knew why. A mysterious heir had appeared, and taken over the clan, with the Hokage support. That, plus the advancement of Naruto to Junin, had given Tsunade plenty of flack all week. I swear, this night better make up for everything I've had to put up with. Tsunade muttered to Shizune. Normally, Shizune would chide her, but this time, she actually agreed with Tsunade. It seemed every day, another villager came in, complaining about the rewarding of the demon brat. The four women approached the 7-foot-high wall that surrounded the Namikaze estate. They could barely see the roof of the one-story building that had been the home of the legendary fourth Hokage. As they neared the gate, they were surprised to see 3 other figures approaching from the other direction. Their white robes, long dark hair, and white eyes marked them as Hyuga. Suan easily recognized Hiashi. The other 2 were considerably older, so Tsunade assumed they were part of the Hyuga clan elders. Her anger flared up, and a little killer intent seeped out. The Hyugas all bowed to Tsunade, as the 2 groups met outside the wall gate. She bowed to them, as did Shizune. Sakura and Hinata bowed to the Hyugas. Hiashi returned the bow, his eyes ill hiding the sadness in them. The 2 elders returned the bow to Sakura, but completely ignored Hinata. Tsunade examined the seal on the inside of the gate well. She pumped some chakra into it, and a bell could be heard in the distance. Within minutes, the gate was opened by Arashin, who still wore his cloak. But everyone could see the formal clothes underneath. He bowed to all of them. Welcome to the Namikaze estate. I am Arashin Uzuma, ranger, and personal trainer to the Namikaze heir. Please, follow me to the dining room. He turned, and led them to the front door. After they had left their shoes on the porch, they entered the entranceway. The building was sparsely decorated. Everything either served a purpose, or meant something to those who lived there. Arashin led them to the dining hall, which was large for 12 people. Arashin indicated that Tsunade should sit to the right of the head of the table. Shizune sat next to her, followed by Sakura, then Hinata. Hiashi sat to the left of the table head, followed by the 2 elders. Arashin stood behind the table head. Lord Namikaze will be here soon. If you will excuse me, I will see about the dinner. Arashin headed out the 2 doors at the back of the room. He found himself in the kitchen, where 12 Narutos were busy cooking. The real one stood nearby. He wore a deep red robe, with a gold sash. On a table near him was a ceremonial mask, which was a red fox mask with gold whiskers. He looked at Arashin. Are they all here? Yes. I really hope this works. That Hinata girl looks really upset. Naruto nodded as he put the mask on. I hope I can make things right. He breathed softly, then exited the kitchen. Everyone stood up, and bowed to him. He returned the bows. I thank you all for accepting my invitations. You all honor me with your presences. Hiashi bowed his head. You honor us. It is indeed wonderful to know the Namikaze are not gone. We have missed the alliance shared by our clans. Naruto nodded, and indicated that they all sit. He had seen Hinata, who had kept her head down. His heart broke as he saw how shattered she seemed. He heard a whine in his head, as Kyuubi felt saddened by what he saw. It's all my fault. No, it's Orochimaru's fault. Not yours. Naruto's attention was drawn to the elders. Who may I ask are you 2? I haven't had the honor of meeting or hearing about either of you. The elders bowed their heads. I'm Hiroto, and this is Hikasha. The male elder introduced them, while the female watched Naruto expectantly. Excuse me, my lord, but may I ask why you wear that mask? I find it best for the moment if my identity remains a secret. But rest assured, by the end of the night, you will all know me. Tsunade nodded. I hope you found everything as it should be. Your home was preserved until you could take over. Naruto nodded. Everything is fine. But I do have something that needed to be discussed. He turned to Lord Hiashi. I do wish to resume the friendship our two clans enjoyed. But perhaps the three of you could clear something up for me. The three of Hyugas looked at each other. Hiashi turned back to their masked host. He didn't notice the look Tsunade and Sakura shared. What is it you wish to ask? Lord Hiashi asked nervously. Naruto shook his head. Don't worry, it doesn't have to do with any of your actions. But I am curious as to why the Hyuga elders saw fit to punish Hinata Hyuga in such a severe manner, if at all. The two elders looked at each other in confusion. Hiroto answered. My lord, I don't understand. Hinata had looked up for the first time. The host was surprising her. His voice sounded familiar, and the hair reminded her of his hair. Now, he seemed interested in her. Hinata wasn't sure of what was going on. But her heart told her something big was going to happen. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. It is a simple question. Why was Hinata punished? My lord, she was failing in her responsibilities as the heir of the Hyuga clan. It was necessary for her to be punished. Surely you can understand. Honestly, no, I can't. If Hinata was failing as a ninja, or as the heir, then perhaps she should have been given help, instead of being punished. It seems quite cold and heartless to me that she was not given aid by her own clan. Hiashi bowed his head. It is my fault. If I had been a better, and more encouraging father, Hinata wouldn't have faltered when she shouldn't have. He turned to his daughter, who was looking at him. Hinata, please forgive me. Hikasha turned to Hiashi. Lord Hiashi, you do not apologize. She is not Hyuga. She is his flesh and blood. If he wants to apologize to his own daughter, then he has every right to. Naruto had spoken softly, but every word he said had a cold anger to them. Hikasha angrily turned to the host. Forgive me, Lord Namikaze, but I fail to see why this subject is even relevant to you. Naruto had already been sitting straight, yet somehow, he was able to sit taller still. If someone I know is in trouble, then I believe it is relevant to me. A small voice came from the other end of the table. Excuse me, BB, but I don't know you. Hinata was watching the man in the mask, as he turned to her, and slumped down a bit. You don't recognize me, do you, Hinata? As she shook her head, he slowly reached up, and removed his mask. Hinata, as well as every other Hyuga present, gasped as they saw the familiar whisker marks. Naruto gently smiled at her. Do you remember me now? Hinata stayed in her seat for several seconds. Then she leapt to her feet, and bowing quickly to everyone, she ran to the door. She was trying to put her shoes back on, when she heard his voice. Hinata, please wait. His voice was gentle, and she stopped. She kept her back to him, afraid to see those eyes, afraid to see the hate she thought would be in them. He heard his feet on the ground as he approached. She began to shake, tears filling her eyes. Hinata, I want you to know the truth. He said gently, as he stopped only a foot from her. She waited, thinking truth, what truth? Hinata, I heard about what happened. About how you were thinking about me, while you were in your home. How in the end, you decided that you didn't care, that you wanted to stay by my side. I heard about how you thought I hated you, that you thought you betrayed me. I could never think any of those things. She stopped shaking, her mind almost not able to comprehend what she was hearing. The truth is, I felt that I betrayed you. When I heard about you locking yourself away, I felt certain that I had betrayed your trust in me, and that you didn't want anything to do with me. When I left, I couldn't stop thinking about how much you probably hated me. I wanted to grow strong, so I could protect you from afar, protect you by keeping this village safe. I could never hate you, Hinata. But I could understand if you hate me. She shuddered, her emotions fighting a battle in her. He doesn't hate me, but after what I put him through, I still hurt him. If I had just stood by him in the beginning, he wouldn't have been hurt thinking I hated him. And Naruto, why? Hinata, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to make me feel better? I still hurt you, by making you think I hated you. Hinata, I don't care. I felt like I deserved it. But everything that has happened to you, you didn't deserve any of that. I want to help you. I want to make everything right. She shuddered again, tears falling to the ground below. She sensed him drawing closer, but she didn't do anything. Why? Why do you want to help me? I'm worthless. I'm nothing. You're not nothing. Hinata, you are everything to me. Hinata, you are worth whatever it takes to make things right. I would be willing to go to the deepest pit of the underworld, if it made you happy. Hinata's head slowly raised up, as she heard these words. He doesn't mean what I think he means, does he? Naruto, what do you mean? She said in a whisper, needing to confirm her thoughts. I mean I love you. He came around her, and looked deep into her eyes. I love you, Hinata Hyuga. You, and no other. She stared into those eyes, those deep blue eyes. She saw the truth. The love, the absolute devotion. Her heart suddenly swelled, and her emotions overwhelmed her. She began to cry loudly, and he hugged her to him, as she cried, and kept crying. She let every emotion out, unable to stop them even if she wanted to. She felt Naruto hold her close, felt those arms encircled around her. She heard the soft comforting words, and she knew that he loved her. Eventually, her crying died down, and she slowly looked into his eyes again. They were so warm, and comforting. He slowly stroked her bare arms, and it felt so wonderful, so right. She saw the smile on his face, a small gentle smile. And she suddenly felt like nothing could ever go wrong again. She gently laid her head against his chest, and whispered back to him, I love you too. Naruto's heart suddenly felt like a heavy burden had been lifted. She loved him. She loved him. Kyuubi howled in happiness, as Naruto held Hinata even tighter to him. He had someone in his life who loved him. He had someone who cared for him on a level he had never known before. Tears began to well up in his eyes, as he rested his head on top of hers. Nothing bad will ever happen to you again, Hinata. I promise. Hinata began to smile, a smile that she hadn't worn in a long time. They stood there, unable to even think about separating from each other. Eventually, Naruto noticed Arishin standing nearby. Naruto, dinner is ready, and the two Hyuga elders left after seeing it was you. I guess you two didn't notice them. Naruto smiled, and looked down at Hinata, who looked up at him. They both started to laugh, the simple sound echoing through the courtyard. Eventually, they got themselves under control, and Naruto offered Hinata his arm. Shall we, Lady Hinata? She took the offered arm. I would love to, Lord Naruto. The two of them returned to the dining room. They were surprised to see that Hiashi had scooted down a seat, and that Tsunade was now in his former seat. Naruto smiled, as he escorted Hinata to the seat on his right, then sat down himself. His shadow clone cooks came bustling out, carrying trays of food. Everyone immediately began serving themselves, and began eating as they happily talked with each other. Hinata's eyes widened as she tasted the food. Naruto, this food is incredible. Did you cook it? Naruto smiled. Sort of. My shadow clones are the ones who cooked. You should compliment them. The shadow clones bowed at the chorus of compliments, before heading back to the kitchen. Everyone continued to eat, and talk, until the meal was done. Naruto held up a hand, and the conversation slowly died down. I want to thank all of you, and I'm sorry for the deception on my part. I just really needed for me and Hinata to talk, and this was the best way. Now, since what has happened to Hinata is because of me, I would like to offer to her the services of my house. In other words, Hinata, would you like to stay here? Hinata glanced at Sakura, who nodded her head, a huge smile on her face. She turned back to Naruto. I would love to. Naruto turned to Hiashi. Is this acceptable to you? More than acceptable. I will sleep safely, knowing my daughter is under your protection. Naruto smiled. Well then, we should get going. We need to move Hinata's stuff over here as soon as possible. Everyone nodded, and was soon standing outside the gate. Hiashi bowed to Tsunade, then bowed to Naruto. He then hugged his daughter, whispering, I will do everything I can to ensure you remain happily with him. He then headed back to the Hyuga estate. Naruto nodded back in the direction of Sakura's home. We should get going. Tsunade nodded, and she and Shizune began heading back to the tower. Tsunade suddenly turned back around. Naruto, don't forget, there is a council meeting tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Make sure to be on time. You too, Arshin. They both nodded, then both performed a very familiar hand sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Suddenly, they were surrounded by 5 Naruto clones, and 5 Arshin clones. The clones all smiled at each other, as Naruto once again offered his arm to Hinata. Shall we get going? Hinata giggled at the antics of some of Naruto's shadow clones. They had gone with Sakura to her home. The clones had gone up to Hinata's room, and quickly packed away everything Hinata had managed to take from the Hyuga estate, and had gotten since then. Then they had left Sakura, but not before Naruto had hugged her, saying, thank you for watching her. Naruto's clones were passing the boxes between them, testing their reflexes. Arshin and his clones shook their heads, holding their boxes carefully. Naruto grinned sheepishly at Hinata. Should they stop? I don't want anything to be broken. Hinata giggled again. They're all right. I gave them stuff like clothes, and things that can't be broken. One of the clones stopped, and looked at the box he held. He suddenly blushed deeply, and quickly passed it to another. Hinata couldn't help, but actually laugh out loud. All the Narutos stopped, and looked at her in amazement. Sorry. Was it bad? Hinata, you have the most amazing laugh. I hope to hear it again. Naruto said, a happy smile on his face. Hinata blushed, smiling happily. She had never laughed like that before. She was glad that Naruto liked it. She was glad, no, ecstatic, that he loved her. She moved next to him, and latched herself onto his arm. He smiled at her, and hugged her. They reached the Namikaze estate, and Naruto hit a hidden seal on the ceiling of the gate well. That unlocks the gate, in case you ever need to, Hinata. The gate opened, and all of them walked in. Arshin locked the gate, while his clones followed the others. Naruto escorted Hinata into the house, and to the bedroom areas. They were at the end of a hallway. There were 3 doors on each side, and a double door at the end. Naruto gestured to the doors. These are all the bedrooms. The one at the end and the 2 on either side are taken. The other 4 are open, so go ahead and take a look. Hinata didn't really need to take a look. She knew what room she wanted. She turned to Naruto. Which one is yours? Naruto smiled. Why, Miss Hinata? She laughed. I want to use the room next to it. Naruto nodded to the one to the right of the double doors. Hinata headed to the one next to it. She pushed the door open, and looked around. It was a lavender-walled room, with a bed and a chest of drawers. There was a closet along one wall. The other wall had a door, which led to a full bathroom. She smiled as she looked around. It's almost perfect. It just needs a few things here and there. Naruto leaned against the wall. I'll get you whatever you need. The clones immediately entered, and began unpacking. One clone placed his box on the bed. I think you should take care of this one, Hinata. He immediately began helping a clone of Arshin to unpack, while Hinata looked into the box. She smiled, and looked up at the clone. I didn't know you get be embarrassed by something so simple. The real Naruto took one look at the side of the box, which said, lingerie. He began to blush too. Hinata, those are your personals. You don't think I'm a pervert, do you? Hinata took pity on him. No, and I'm glad to hear you say you aren't one. She quickly and discreetly packed the items away. With the shadow cone's help, the room was soon squared away. The clones nodded, then dissipated. Hinata looked around. The room was wonderful. It felt better than her old room in the Hyuga estate ever could. She walked over to Naruto, and hugged him. Thank you, for all of this. Naruto held her. He so wanted to kiss her. But, it just didn't feel quite right yet. He wanted everything to perfect, so they would remember it forever. So, he held her closer to him, and smiled. Hey, you want a tour of the inside of the house? She looked up at him, and nodded. Naruto led her around, showing her the living room, where he would entertain guests, and where they could just hang out. He also showed her the laundry room, because he figured she would want to wash her clothes. Hinata noticed the embarrassed blush he wore as he said that. She smiled, but didn't laugh. He then led her to a flight of stairs, which led downwards. They entered into a huge room. Hinata gasped as she looked around. It was a massive training dojo. One half was covered in a mat. Training dummies, training in real weapons, and exercise equipment lined the wall. The other half of the room was divided again. One quarter was a type of ranged weapon range. Arishin was at one end, putting shafts from his longbow into the targets at the other end. The other quarter was surrounded by walls. Hinata pointed to it. What's that? Naruto led her over, and opened the sliding door. Inside was a massage table, and an artificial hot spring. It's a relaxation area. Here, you can cool off and relax your muscles after working out. It's also a rather romantic area, if you think about. Hinata blushed, thinking about her and Naruto, in their swimsuits, together in the hot spring. Then her mind went further. A slight trickle of blood leaked out of her nose, but she quickly wiped it away. Naruto, not noticing, led her to another door along the wall. He opened, revealing a room about twice the size of a study. There were shelves along the walls, and the shelves were filled with books and scrolls. There was a table, and a desk. Naruto walked over to it, and held up a storage scroll. Hinata noticed that it was labeled, Hyuga. Naruto. This scroll contains pretty much everything the Hyugas have ever learned, and what they started, but never finished. The Namikaze have always kept a record of what the other clans have achieved, so as to keep those achievements from being lost. He handed her the scroll. This is yours. Do what you want with it. Hinata held the scroll. She, the now failure of the clan, held everything that her clan had ever achieved in her hand. With the knowledge of this scroll, she could resurrect lost techniques of her clan. The clan would be forever indebted to her. But she looked up at Naruto, and gave it back. It belongs to you. If my clan had been responsible, they would have kept records. Most of them are not worthy of this knowledge. Hinata, this knowledge, it could help your clan become powerful. You could become the hero of the Hyugas. Hinata shook her head. I don't care. I don't want to be a hero to a clan that tossed me aside. Naruto sighed, then thought of something. What about your dad, and Hanabi, and Neji? My father and sister would benefit. As for Neji, I don't think he deserves this kind of information, after the way he treated you. Naruto lowered his head. If that's your choice. Then he looked up and smiled. I think you should see something though. He opened the scroll, and activated one particular symbol on it. A single scroll popped out, and Naruto opened it. These are notes that Hiroshima, the founder of your clan, had on a jutsu he was working on. It was supposed to be for those who couldn't get rotation down. You recognize it? Hinata looked over the notes and illustrations, her eyes widening. This was the beginning of my protective 8 trigrams. Which means, you unknowingly finished the jutsu that the founder of your clan could never finish. I guess that makes you a genius too. Naruto lowered the scroll, and looked her in the eyes. Hinata, I want to help you to be happy. I know you always wanted to impress your father with your ninja skills. If you still want that, then I will train you, if you want. Every word written down in this library is at your disposal. Every second of my life will be made available to train you. Do you want to be a ninja again? Hinata was overwhelmed. Naruto was willing to train her. He was giving her full access to jutsus some people had never seen in their lifetime. He was offering to make one of her dreams come true. She suddenly felt small, and not worthy of the man who she stood near. He seemed willing to put aside everything, even his own dreams and ambitions, just for her. She turned away, ashamed of the tears flowing down her face. Naruto, I'm just a failure. I've failed so many times, and I don't think I can ever really be a ninja. Naruto came over, and took her face in his hands. He looked at her tear-stained face, and at the tears running down her eyes. Hinata, who has ever called you a failure? Who? The elders, and Neji after I fell apart. Even Kiba and Shino. My father used to, until I grew stronger. Then, he became softer and gentler, like he used to be, but it doesn't matter. I am a failure. I could never do anything right. Hinata, I just showed you that you did do something. You completed a fairly complicated jutsu, with almost no help. As for everyone who has ever called you a failure, or weak, or anything else like that, well, they are idiots, who don't know the real you. Hinata just looked at him as he continued. I always have thought of you as one of the strongest people I have known. You are always so kind to people, even when they abuse you, or try to kill you. You never seem to give up, just like me. When I see you, I see a strong, determined person, who can achieve whatever she sets her mind to. Hinata, please, forget what the others have said to you, and believe me. Believe in yourself, like I believe in you. Hinata looked down for a moment. Everything Naruto said ran through her mind. Everyone who had ever put her down, why did she care what they said? At one point, it was because she respected them. But the elders, her father, and Neji, she had respected them because she feared them. Kiba and Shino, she had respected them because they were her teammates, but they had treated her like dirt. But Naruto, he had always treated her respectfully, even though it had been behind the mask of the dense-headed idiot. Why should she believe their words, when it was only meant to drag her down? She felt weak, for letting others influence her like that, for giving them respect they didn't deserve. But Naruto's arms, which now encircled her, slowly gave her strength. She buried her head against his chest, and smiled. When it came to her, she wouldn't believe anyone but Naruto. I'm sorry. I will believe in myself. She looked up at him, the same way I believe in you. That you can do anything. Naruto looked into her eyes and knew that this was the moment. He slowly moved his face down, and kissed away each tear still on her face. Then, he kissed her lips. She was shocked, but quickly kissed back, melting against him. It was passionate, or lustful. It was gentle, and loving, and oh so powerful. Kyuubi howled in joy and triumph, but was unheard by his host. Hinata's arms went up around Naruto's neck, while he wrapped one arm around her shoulders, the other around her waist. They kept kissing, unable to break apart. The world around them no longer existed, and all that mattered to each of them was the other. Eventually, a need for air caused them to separate. They stood there panting slightly. The power of the kiss lingered, creating a feeling in the air that neither one wanted to break. Naruto slowly stroked her hair, while she pressed herself against him. Eventually, Naruto felt a presence behind them. He looked over his shoulder, and spotted Arashin, who was grinning. I didn't want to interrupt. But, we do have a council meeting tomorrow, so I suggest we all go to bed. Naruto nodded, and Arashin left. Naruto turned back to his lavender-eyed love, and whispered, we should get to bed. Hinata nodded, but didn't let go. Naruto, yes, I know I have my own room, but can I sleep in your bed with you? I don't want you to be alone anymore, even at night. Naruto thought for all of 1/100th of a second. I would love that. He suddenly picked her up, bridal style, earning a surprised eep. He carried her upstairs, and to her room. He lowered her so she could stand, and left so she could change. In his room, he quickly changed from his robe, now quite wet from Hinata's tears, into PJ bottoms, and a orange t-shirt. Naruto quickly pulled the covers down his bed. He heard a knock at his door, and went to answer it. He gasped at the beauty he beheld. Hinata wore a blue nightgown, which ill hid her body's curves. Her body was beautiful, already quite mature for a 16-year-old. But Naruto didn't really dwell on that. Instead, he looked at her beautiful face. He could see her shyness, as she tried to cover her bare arms. He slowly reached out, pulled her arms down, and leaned close to her ear. You don't need to hide. You're beautiful. Hinata smiled, and they kissed again. While not lasting as long as their last kiss, it still held the same power. Naruto picked her up again, and carried her to the bed. He gently laid her on it, climbed in next to her, and pulled the covers over them. They snuggled next to each other, warming them's leaves with their bodies' heat. Naruto held her close, and they kissed again. I love you, Hinata. I love you too, Naruto. With this, Hinata closed her eyes, a smile forming on her face. Naruto rested his head above hers, her head snuggling in the crook of his neck. They both soon fell asleep, enjoying the closeness they now had. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX suddenly cut into his thoughts. They are good together, aren't they? They look like they were made for each other. What about you? Is there a girl you were made for? I doubt it. The girls who would accept me are taken, and the others could never want me if they knew about you. The voice rumbled in laughter. Well then, we will have to find you someone like you. Arashin shrugged at the thought. He then told Naruto about getting to bed, before heading to his own room. He fell asleep, wondering if there was a girl out there for him. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. The blonde kunoichi dumped the corpse of the ninja she had killed into the river. Two other bodies floated farther downstream. She turned, grabbed the hunter mask of a cloud ninja, and tossed it into the stream with its former owner, before leaping into the trees, moving with the speed that only a ninja could possess. This was just yet another attempt to kill her. Ever since her betrayal by her own village, into the hands of the Akatsuki, she had been hunted down. Yugito was amazed that she was even still alive. Those two Akatsuki members, Kakuza and Hidan, had ambushed her, and defeated her. But during the ritual, when they started to drain Nibi from her, a freak accident happened. A chakra surge from somewhere had disrupted the process, temporarily stunning all the Akatsuki. It had revived her, but at a cost. She had grown younger, going from 22 to 16. She managed to get out of there, and after some rest, had enough strength to head south, away from everything she had known. At first, she had no idea where to go. She had decided to never trust a normal human ever again, so she couldn't really go to a nearby town or village. Then she had remembered the tales. Another container, like her, lived in the village hidden in the leaves. She could go there, and ask for sanctuary. She had set out for there a year ago, eager to start a new life. Now, she was a mere week from the Leaf Village. She had snuck past the border guards, but hadn't expected to be attacked by Cloud Ninja. She felt sure that the Raikage had asked the Hokage for help. So now, she would wait, until she had her chance to approach the boy named Naruto Namikaze. Yugito smiled, a smile that didn't quite make it to her blue eyes. The morning sunlight streamed through the window in Naruto's room. The warmth of the sunlight, plus its light shining at his closed eyelids, caused him to wake up. He blinked a few times, wondering what the weight in his arms, and the pressure on his chest was. Then he saw the indigo blue hair, and remembered what had happened last night. He smiled, as he gently kissed the top of Hinata's head. She had turned over during the night, and pressed her back into Naruto's chest. Naruto looked over her head, at the clock on the bedside table. It read 10:09. He smiled, and gently hugged Hinata. The slight increase in pressure caused her to stir, then slowly open her eyes. She looked around in surprise, then smiled, as she felt the comforting arms encircled around her. She turned back over, and smiled happily at Naruto, who pulled her as close as he could without hurting her. The two of them kissed, happy to have each other's company. Morning beautiful. Good morning handsome. Hinata snuggled her head against his chest. What do you want to do today? Stay here all day with you. Naruto said, earning a nuzzle at the crook of his neck. He sighed happily, then grew somewhat serious. I'd love to, but we have too much to do. Hinata pouted, which Naruto thought looked very cute. He leaned down, and kissed her lovingly, bringing a content look on her face. He pulled back, smiling at her. She sighed. You don't play fair. Naruto chuckled. Isn't that one of the ninja rules? Use every advantage you have. Hinata giggled as she nodded. Just don't give me a reason to use my advantages. Naruto's eyes widened. Why, Miss Hinata? Hinata blushed. I can't believe I said that. Please, forgive me. Naruto laughed a bit. No, this is actually good. It means you have gotten some confidence. It will help with your training. He looked back at the clock. We need to get going. They both reluctantly got out of bed. Hinata went to her room to change, while Naruto put his ninja clothes on. He headed out of his room, and went to the kitchen. He was busy cooking breakfast, when he heard Hinata enter behind him. She hugged his back, sniffing over his shoulder. What is that? Naruto smiled. It's a breakfast Arshin cooked for me and Jiraiya while we were training with him. His clan used to eat these things while they wandered. It's eggs, tomatoes, toasted bread. It all seems weird, but actually tastes good. Hinata smiled, and sat down at the table in the kitchen. Naruto put out 2 plates of the food, along with some salt and pepper. He poured out some tea, and sat down. Let's dig in. Hinata took a bite of the toasted bread, with a tomato slice on it. Her eyes widened. It's delicious. It's so simple, yet so good. I know. It is really good. They both ate their fill, and washed the dishes. Then Naruto led her down to the training room. Arshin was already down there, training with his sword. Naruto nodded to him, then took Hinata to the center of the sparring area. All right, we need to get you back to your old level, before we get really training. So, I want you to spar with me, just so I can get a feel for where you are at. Hinata hung her head, playing with the string of her jacket. She had put on her ninja outfit, which she hadn't worn for 5 months. Naruto, I don't think I will be able to really do it. It will probably take years to get me back to where I was. So, we'll train for years then. I don't really have anywhere major to go. Just believe Hinata. Believe like I do. Hinata nodded, and slipped into her Jiyuken stance. Suddenly, a wave of memories washed over her. She remembered training so hard, just to be acknowledged. She had worked, sweated, bled, and nearly died. She had always felt like she had failed, and almost everyone had made her feel like she had. But not anymore. She activated her family's bloodline, and readied herself. Naruto saw the determined look in her eyes, and smiled. He adopted his own ready stance, standing sideways, so his right side faced her. He watched her, his right hand held diagonally away from his body. Think Neo from the Matrix. Hinata rushed forward, and struck at Naruto with her right fist. His hand moved, and parried her strike away. She struck at several points at his body, only to be blocked each time. She tried to kick, but Naruto's foot came up and blocked. She began to despair, reverting to the feeling of failure at not being able to hit him. But then she saw the encouraging smile, and the eyes that said keep going. You're doing fine. Her resolve stiffened, and she began attacking with a new ferocity. Slowly, her speed began to pick up, and soon, Naruto was forced to back up, using all his limbs to block. But the smile stayed on his face, and he nodded in approval. Eventually, Hinata stopped, too drained to keep going. She felt like crying. She had failed to hit him. Even with his encouragement, she had failed. Suddenly he was hugging her, saying, "That was great, Hinata. You did great. But Naruto, I didn't even hit you. I failed. Was the objective to hit me? No, it was to see how strong you currently are. If anything, Hinata, you were strong today than I have ever seen you. She looked up at him. What? Naruto smiled. I've always watched you fight and train. Today, you actually moved faster and hit harder than I've ever seen you do before. All you needed was someone to encourage you, make you feel good. But, shouldn't I have at least hit you once? I wasn't able to. I didn't even come close. Naruto shrugged. That's where practice comes in. You haven't fought for 5 months, and I've been. Hinata smiled, as tears of happiness began to flow down her cheeks. She buried her head in his chest. He just kept making her thankful for him over and over again. She felt like she could never repay him. She looked up at him. What did I do to deserve you? You loved me, when no one else would. And it is I who should be asking that question. What did I do to deserve the love of an angel such as yourself? They kissed again, only this kiss was more passionate. Naruto gently licked her lips, asking to enter. She opened, and his tongue entered her mouth, exploring this new wonder. Their tongues wrestled, before he withdrew, allowing her tongue to enter his own mouth. After a few minutes of this, they finally broke apart. They looked deeply into each other's eyes, oblivious to the world around them. At least, until an embarrassed witness cleared his throat. We need to get moving. The council meeting is in an hour and a half. Kyuubi snickered, as Hinata and Naruto pulled apart, both blushing even more than Arashin. Naruto quickly recovered. Right. We should get going. Hinata, I was wondering if you would like to be my advisor. Hinata looked at Arashin. But, I thought he was your advisor. I was going to be, but since I'm going to be starting a new clan, I can't do it. Then I'll be happy to. Hinata smiled, glad that she could help Naruto. Naruto smiled, and clapped his hands. Right then, we should all get cleaned up, and ready to go. As they headed upstairs, Naruto turned inward to his mind, where the giant nine-tailed fox demon sat, trying to look innocent. Were you laughing at mine and Hinata's expense? No. Really? Naruto thought, not believing the Kyuubi. I thought I heard a snicker in my mind. Must have been your imagination. Stupid fox, Naruto thought, before entering his room. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. After everyone had showered, and changed into fresh sets of their normal clothes, they headed for the Hokage's tower. Along the way, people kept looking over at the trio. They instantly recognized Hinata, and wondered why she seemed so happy and content. Then they would finally recognize the man in the black coat. Most kept their faces neutral, but a few glared at him in hatred and anger. Others smiled, and a few actually bowed, murmuring praises and thanks. No one even looked twice at Arashin. The three of them entered the tower, and headed to the large council chamber, beneath the Hokage's office. The two Chunin at the entrance nodded, as they had been ordered to recognize Naruto and Arashin. The trio entered into a large room, dominated by a massive table. All around the table, chairs had been placed, with nameplates indicating which clans sat next to each other. The room was filled with the heads of the major clans, as well as their advisors or heirs, and the village elders. All conversation ceased as Naruto entered. Immediately, Danzo, head of Anbu Root, stood up. What do you think you are doing here, Uzumaki? Before Naruto could respond, Tsunade entered. Danzo turned to her. Lady Hokage, what is he doing here? Naruto raised his eyebrow. Shall I tell them, or do you want to? Tsunade cringed slightly. Sorry. Why don't you do it? Naruto looked over everyone present. There were the two elders, Koharu Udatane, and Homura Mitokado. Danzo was there next to them. Inoichi Yamanaka, and Ino stood next to Shikaku and Shikamaru Nara and Shuza and Choji Akamichi. Shibi Aburame stood off to one side, with Shino. Sume and Kiba Inuzuka were busy talking quietly with their partners Kuromaru and Akamaru. Nearby, Hiyashi Hyuga sat next to Hiroto. Naruto nodded to Hiyashi, and smiled at Shikamaru and Choji. He then took a deep breath. I am here to take my seat on the council. The seat that has been empty since the Kyuubi attacked the village. The seat of Namikaze. He stood straight. I am Naruto Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze, and Kushina Uzumaki. I am the new head of the Namikaze clan. This caused an uproar amongst those present. Everyone began talking, stunned at this news. Except for the Hyugas. Hiyashi smiled, and indicated the spot next to his seat, where the Namikaze nameplate was. Naruto sat down, with Hinata sitting to his left. They both missed the glare they received from Hiroto. Arashin sat in a chair along the wall. Down at the other end of the table, Tsunade sat down, with Kaharu on her left, and Homura on her left. The other members eventually sat down, still amazed at what they had heard. Danzo waited for everyone to settle down, before turning to Tsunade. Lady Hokage, what is this? What proof is there that this is the fourth heir? Tsunade raised an eyebrow. Besides the fact that he looks exactly like Minato. How about this? Tsunade placed a folder on the table. These are records, and Minato's last will. They explain that Naruto was kept hidden for his own safety from Minato's enemies. Naruto has learned the truth, and is now old enough to take over his role as the head of the Namikaze. Danzo sat back, looking over the documents. Eventually, he conceded, but an ugly look remained on his face. Others around the table had looks of fear or confusion. A few looked genuinely happy. The Naras, Akamichis, and Hiyashi all smiled. Naruto nodded to each of them in return. Tsunade nodded as well, noting who was on Naruto's side. Then, she got down to business. Our first order of business is a request for the admittance and formation of a new clan. Arashin Uzuma, please step forward. Arashin stood, and walked to the other end of the table, where he stood. I humbly ask to be allowed to form the Ranger clan. The council looked at each other. Finally, Shikaku leaned forward. So, what can you do? The Ranger clan was skilled in Kenjutsu, our own forms of taijutsu, and element-style ninjutsu. We also are master trackers, and are masters at stealth movement. Is that all? All of our ninjas are skilled in at least one of those aspects. There is nothing special there. Kaharu said all this stiffly. Homura nodded in agreement. Suum raised a hand to gain everyone's attention. I would like to ask the ranger something. When the others nodded, she turned to him. What happened to the rest of your clan? And what is that smell around you? It is like snakes. But different. Everyone's attention was on Arashin. Most suddenly had eyes of distrust. Tsunade was suddenly wary of Arashin being a sound spy. But Naruto stood up. I can vouch that Arashin has never had anything to do with Orochimaru. I cannot explain the smell, as that is for Arashin to explain. But he is no spy. Arashin nodded in gratitude to Naruto. I will answer the questions. My clan was part of a ninja village, which was wiped out in the first Great Ninja War. The clan wandered the lands after that, eventually taking on the name of the Ranger clan. Eventually, 7 years ago, we were in the land of Earth. Late one night, our clan was ambushed by rock ninjas. We had 20 full-ranked rangers, and 30 apprentices, counting me. We had over 100 innocent women and infants with us. Arashin's eyes hardened. The rock ninjas attacked us with 200 ninja. They slaughtered my entire clan, but not before losing all but 10 of their ninja. They kept me alive, and dragged me back to their village. Everyone leaned closer, as Arashin opened his cloak, and pulled up the left sleeve of the long-sleeved shirt he wore. There was an intricate tattoo on his arm, in the shape of a dragon. How many of you know about dragons? When they all shook their heads, he continued. Dragons are like demons, such as Kyuubi. However, they are guardian spirits, here to protect the innocent. The rock village had managed to seal one away in a special container, but had been unsuccessful in sealing it in a human. When I was dragged to the rock village, along with all the information on my clan's abilities and techniques, they decided to use me as a guinea pig. They sealed the dragon inferno inside of me. This time, the seal worked. Everyone looked at him. This young man claimed to have a dragon sealed in him. They had heard the stories of dragons, but never thought they existed. Arshan looked around at them, then continued. As soon as I regained my strength, and made contact with Inferno, we began to talk. We told each other our stories, and plotted on how to escape. Eventually, I was able to access Inferno's power. I used it to break free, take back my clan's knowledge, and escape. I've been on the run ever since. He nodded to Naruto. I met Lord Namikaze 2 years ago. We were both able to detect the other's power, and shared stories. I trained with him in Jiraiya for a few months, before leaving. 6 months ago, Naruto contacted me, asking for help to train. I agreed, in exchange for him bringing me back here, so that I might be able to found my own clan. Danzo immediately stood up. This is ridiculous. How can we know that there is a dragon in him? He is lying. Arshan turned to Inoichi Yamanaka. Perhaps you might investigate my mind, and discover the truth. Inoichi looked to the Hokage, who nodded. He quickly performed some hand signs, saying, Soul Exploration Jutsu. He suddenly slumped over, and Arshan became rigid. In less than a minute, Inoichi sat back up. He looked around, and said, the boy is telling the truth. There is a dragon, and they are guardian spirits. Danzo shook this head. This is folly. This boy has no right to ask to found a clan here. Tsunade looked at the man with anger. That is not your decision. It is the decision of the council. I believe that the Ranger clan can be an asset to the village. I call the question. Who agrees that the Ranger clan should be founded? Naruto, Hiashi, Shikaku, Shuza, Inoichi, Sum, and Shibi all raised their hands. Homura shook his head. We already regret having one demon container. Must we add a second? Naruto spoke softly. Careful, elder. This demon container has already saved the village, and your life, several times. Is it wise to insult us? Tsunade shook her head. Enough. The matter is decided. The Ranger clan will be formed, and is now recognized as an official clan of the Hidden Leaf Village. There will be no further discussion of the subject. Now, on to other business. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. The meeting ended, and as everyone was leaving, Tsunade stopped Naruto, Hinata, and Arshan. She led them to her office, where she sat down with a sigh. Things are going to be rough for a while. Arshan bowed his head. I am sorry for the discord I have created. It's not your fault, Arshan. Do not concern yourself with the prejudice of the short-sighted. Hinata bowed respectfully to him. It is an honor to know you as a friend. Naruto smiled as he put an arm around Arshan. Yeah man. Don't let them get you down. I would never have gotten this far if I had listened to all their complaints against me. Tsunade nodded in agreement. They are right. But we have other things to discuss. Naruto, I need to get you back into the field. You're a Junin now, and the village needs you. You too, Hinata. I've reinstated you. She indicated a form before her on her desk. I've finished filling out this form for the creation of a new squad. It will consist of the 3 of you. Your 4th spot will remain vacant, as I want you to choose who you want on your team. Naruto nodded. I think we all will accept that. But I still need some time to train Hinata. I want to make sure she is combat ready before we begin. It won't be that long. She's almost ready as it is. Hinata blushed at the compliment. Tsunade nodded. All right, let me know when you are ready, and I'll send Team Naruto on its first mission. Naruto nodded, his heart swelling with pride. Team Naruto. It was one step closer to become Hokage. But he had other things to do first. Like making sure Hinata's dreams came true. And making sure Arshan was able to rebuild the Ranger clan. And bringing Sasuke back. He had promised Sakura, and he always kept his promises. He and the others bowed to Lady Tsunade, and left. As they walked, he put an arm around Hinata's shoulders. She snuggled against his side, sighing happily. Naruto smiled, glad that he was able to make the woman he loved feel so happy. Naruto looked up from the scroll he was studying. He smiled as he saw Hinata poring over the jutsu scroll he had given her. It had been 3 weeks since he had begun training her. By the end of the first week, her old skills had come back. Naruto had tested her chakra affinities, and found that besides her affinity for water, she also could use wind-style jutsu. He had begun teaching her the hidden mist jutsu, which was perfect with her Byakugan, since she could see the enemy's chakra, while they would be blind. She was now learning both a ranged water and wind jutsu. Her skills weren't the only thing that had changed. While she was far from being as confident as Ino or Sakura were, she had gained a fair amount of self-confidence. Naruto looked over her new outfit. She had kept her jacket, but only planned to wear it in bad or cold weather. She now wore a dark blue sleeveless shirt, which reached down to the top of a pair of dark blue pants. She also wore a pair of arm-length fingerless gloves, which were also dark blue, and had metal plates on the back of her hands. Naruto really liked the look. It showed that she was still modest, but wasn't afraid to fight, if she had to. She looked up, and smiled at Naruto. Naruto's smile got bigger, before he turned back to the scroll. It was a record his father had of the Sharingan, and all of its levels. With Hinata's training at its current level, he thought her more than a match for any Chunin of the Leaf Village. Which meant that Team Naruto was ready for missions. This meant that they might run into Sasuke, and Naruto wanted to be as ready as possible in case they did run into him. He looked as Hinata came over to him. Could you help me? I think I have it down, so I want to try it out. Naruto nodded as he stood to his feet. Sure. They left the library, and took up positions on the mat. Naruto performed his trademark jutsu. 2 shadow clones poofed into existence. Hinata quickly performed her own hand signs. Water style, water wall jutsu. Suddenly, a wave of water roared from out of the artificial hot spring, and formed into a wall in front of Hinata. Both of the shadow clones threw shurikens at the wall, but it was so dense that the shurikens were merely trapped. Hinata suddenly pushed forward against the wall, and it rushed at Naruto and his clones. All 3 jumped back, with the middle one performing his own hand signs. Earth style, refuge dome jutsu. A wall of rock rose from the ground, and formed a half-dome in front of the Narutos. The water wall collapsed against it, and Hinata slumped a bit, panting. Naruto released both of his jutsus, and approached Hinata. She straightened up, looking at him questioningly. Naruto nodded. That was quite good for your first try. If you had more water, that might have been a lot more dangerous. All of you need is to practice your control. I would suggest not using it unless it's against a large number of enemies, or a pinned enemy. For now, Hinata nodded, and looked over at Arashin. He was standing at the archery range, his bow held ready. His eyes were closed, as he concentrated. He slowly drew an arrow on his bow, and raised it. Suddenly, he released it. Almost as soon as it made it to the halfway point, Arashin finished his own hand signs. Ranger Art, Arrow Storm Jutsu. The arrows suddenly became many, and they all struck the targets, and the wall behind them. Arashin's original had pierced the first target's bull's eye. Arashin opened his eyes, and nodded in approval. He turned back to the others, smiling. I haven't lost my touch. Naruto smirked. I don't know. That one arrow didn't quite hit the center. Naruto pointed to one arrow, which was off by half an inch. Arashin looked at it, then turned back to Naruto. Of course, when someone uses a minor little breeze jutsu to knock the arrow off center, then it's going to miss. Naruto tried an innocent smile, but couldn't quite pull it off. Hinata shook her head. Naruto, that wasn't nice. Naruto looked at her, giving her a mock look of sadness. Hinata, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it. Hinata smiled. You look so cute when you're fake sad. She hugged him, putting a smile on his face. He hugged her back. I was thinking. You have gotten really strong, and I think Team Naruto is ready for their first mission. What do you guys think? Arashin nodded, and Hinata looked up at him. You think I'm ready? Naruto nodded, and kissed her. If you keep believing, and keep your confidence up, then I know you're ready. Hinata nodded. Then we're ready. All right. Team Naruto, let's go get our first mission. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX each of them over. She was happy with the change she saw in Hinata. There was confidence in those lavender eyes, as well as strength and happiness. She turned to the leader of the group. So, you all are ready for your first mission? Yes. We came to report that we are ready, so when you have a mission for us, let us know. Tsunade smiled as she pulled out a file. I actually have one for you. This is the mission is nothing special, but it's still pretty tough. There are rogue ninjas harassing a town near here. I want the three of you to either capture or eliminate them. Naruto looked over the file. So, they're all rock ninjas. Guess this is their way of getting back at the land of fire. And there are only 3 of them. That means one for each of us. Naruto took the papers out of the file, and placed it in his belt pack. He turned to the others. Let's get going. If we hurry, we should be done and home by tomorrow night. They nodded, and all 3 teleported away. Tsunade just shook her head. That boy is unbelievable. Only 3 weeks, and he has her at least low-level Junin. Naruto, is there anything you can't do? Naruto and his team stood at the gate. Arshin adjusted the weapons on his back, while Hinata checked over her supplies, making sure she had enough kunais, shurikens, and medical items. Naruto watched the trees waving in the wind. He turned to the others, and noticed that both teams Kurenai, with Kakashi leading, since Kurenai is probably still pregnant, and Kakashi Yamato leading, since he has done that in the past. Naruto nodded to his old team, and Daichi. He then glanced at Kiba and Shino, and was surprised to see that no one else was with them. Hey Hinata, didn't they put someone on your team after you were pulled from active duty? Naruto whispered, so Kiba and Shino couldn't hear. Hinata shook her head. There hasn't been another tracker skilled enough to take my place yet. But there are a few in the Genin teams, so who knows? Kiba looked over Team Naruto, flinching as he saw Naruto. His eyes leapt to Arshin, then settled on Hinata, who had her back to him. He smirked, and slowly sauntered over. Hey there, good looking. What's someone as fine as you doing with guys like these? Hinata slowly turned, and looked Kiba in the eyes. He jumped back as he recognized her. Hinata, for your information, Kiba, I'm about to go on a mission with my team. I see you are too, so I'll wish you luck. She turned away, then suddenly turned back, remembering something. Oh, and Kiba, I don't think Naruto would appreciate you hitting on his girlfriend. She turned to Naruto, and kissed him. When they broke apart, Naruto looked up, and gave Kiba a shrug. Kiba immediately backed off, while Sakura laughed at him. Naruto looked down at Hinata, who was blushing. That was unexpected. Yeah, I can't believe I did that. It felt so weird, and yet, so right. Hinata, I'm glad that you have confidence now. But you know, I still really like the quiet side of you. Don't change too much, okay? Hinata smiled. For you, all right. I'll apologize to Kiba when I see him next. Naruto smiled, then turned to the open road ahead. He felt the wind ruffle his coat, and smelled the scents of the forest. Team Naruto, let's go. With that, 3 blurs disappeared, leaving a stunned Inuzuka and Aburame behind. Was that really Hinata? I don't know. My bugs tell me it was her, but she was not easily recognizable. Sakura was still giggling, as the 2 teams left for their own mission. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX 2 weeks. And there had not been hide nor hair of that Jinchuriki. She hated living amongst these regular townsfolk. And what was worse were those so-called ninjas who were harassing the townsfolk. A true ninja would never stoop to that level. She sat at the cafe, her middle-aged woman transformation keeping her hidden. She had finally decided to do something about it. She was outside the hotel where the three ninjas stayed. If only there was another ninja here, they would recognize those weak transformations those rock ninjas were using. She slowly sipped her tea, and watched the people walking by. She had to admit, the people in this land seemed happier than the ones back home. Maybe this place wasn't that bad. Her attention was suddenly drawn by the now familiar chakra signatures of the three rogues. She looked up, and saw the three men exit the hotel. She smiled to herself. All those years, being trained by the Anbu of her village were worth it. It meant that only a genjutsu expert could fool her. She paid for her tea, and followed the men down the street. Their transformations made each rock ninja look like normal, good-looking guys. But she had seen the real them. One was short, and facing a losing battle against hair loss, and his waistline. Another was a tall, skinny guy, with almost no muscle tone. The leader was the only one who looked to be in shape, and even then, he was about as in shape as a first-year academy student. Yugito followed them to the edge of town, where they dropped their transformations. This is it, she thought to herself. She dropped her transformation, and was about to strike, when something unexpected happened. Naruto smiled as he watched from the trees. His team had made excellent time, and had reached the town with time to spare. Hinata had quickly found their targets with her Byakugan. Arashin, being a master of stealth, had tailed them, and noted their routine. As night fell, Arashin reported back that the targets had left town, and returned under transformations. He had also reported something else. Flashback. There's another ninja in town. Someone powerful. Naruto looked up. What? Arashin sat down in one of the chairs in their hotel room. I think there is a Jinchuriki here. The power level is far weaker than yours or mine, so it must be one of the lower level demons. Naruto turned inward to Kyubi. What do you think? Any ideas? Kyubi scratched the back of one of his ears. I think it is Nibi. She is the two-tail form of a cat. But I can't be sure. I don't actually sense anything. Me neither. Outwardly, he questioned Arashin. Are you sure? Me and Kyubi don't sense anything. Hinata nodded. I didn't really see anyone else either. Arashin shrugged. I'm not surprised. Whoever it is, they're very good at masking their chakra. The only thing is that they can't fully hide that amount from a ranger. It was one of our many advantages that we could sense even the smallest amount of chakra. Flashback end. Now, Naruto could see the shadow hiding near the three-rock ninja. He could sense her chakra, and Kyubi had confirmed that it was Nibi. All Naruto knew was that another Jinchuriki was here, and that they had to be kept from the Akatsuki. Naruto turned to Arashin, and nodded. Arashin had an arrow knocked on his bowstring, and was aiming at their targets. Suddenly, he let it fly, and quickly performed his hand signs. Ranger art, pinning barrage. The arrow became many, and they nailed the loose parts of the ninja's clothes, pinning them to the ground. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Yugito drew back, as the rock ninjas were suddenly thrown to the ground, pinned by numerous arrows. They began cursing, struggling to free themselves. Suddenly, three more ninjas appeared nearby. One wore a cloak and hood, with a bow and shield on his back. He held a straight-bladed sword in his left hand. A female ninja in dark blue clothes stood in a stance Yugito recognized as the gentle fist style of the Leaf Village's Hyuga clan. She also recognized the pupilless lavender eyes of the Hyuga clan, and the leaf headband worn around her neck. But her attention was drawn to the third member. He stood over both of his teammates. He wore black clothes, with flames along the bottom of the shirt, pants, and coat. His face was almost completely hidden by the face mask, sunglasses, and bandana around the top of his head. She noted the long blonde hair, and then noted something else. He smelled like a fox. Nibi, is that him? Is that? Yes. That smell is Kyubi's. That is your Jinchuriki all right. Yugito suddenly felt relieved, until she felt the presence behind her. She turned to see the same guy behind her. Hey there. What's up? Yugito seemed at a loss for words. She hadn't heard anything. How did he do that? She turned back to see him still there, looking at her. A clone. No, a shadow clone. Suddenly, the leader of the rogue ninjas leapt up, having freed himself. He tried to run, only to be confronted by Girl, who immediately struck him in the chest. He fell, coughing up blood. The girl tied him up, while the cloaked figure knocked the other two ninjas out. The real blonde came up to Yugito, and looked her over. So, who may I ask, are you? Yugito looked him over. Yugito ni, formerly of the Cloud Village. I'm the Jinchuriki of the Two-Tail, Nibi. The blonde didn't even flinch. So Arishin was right. Well, my turn. First off, are you here to kill me, or any other leaf ninjas? No. Good. How about spying? No. So you're really not part of your village anymore? No. All right. What is with the questioning? You would do the same in my position. Anyways, I know you're not lying, because I didn't hear your pulse pick up. I'm Naruto Namikaze, Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. So, what can I do for you? Yugito looked him square in the sunglasses. I came here to join the Hidden Leaf. My village betrayed me, and I need someplace to protect me. Betrayed you? Why? I thought that to other villages, a Jinchuriki was a powerful weapon. Yugito looked at him strangely. We are, but the Raikage was scared of me. He betrayed me to the Akatsuki, and... What? He did that? That idiot. Naruto's killer intent flared with his anger, as he continued. Doesn't he know what the Akatsuki are up to? That moron almost handed in his own death warrant. What an stupid lunatic. Yugito looked at him, puzzled. Naruto suddenly turned his attention back to her. So you escaped. That's quite a feat. I should know, since I've run into a few of them. Hinata came over. Naruto, is everything alright? Yeah, I'm just amazed at the idiocy of some people. Oh, Yugito, this is my girlfriend, Hinata Hyuga. Hinata, this is Yugito ni. She's the Jinchuriki Arishin sensed yesterday. Hinata smiled and held a hand out. Nice to meet you. Yugito looked at her with a icy stare, then turned to Naruto. Girlfriend? Huh, does she know about your secret? Naruto nodded. Yeah, why? What's going on? You sure you can trust her? Naruto suddenly gave Yugito a very frosty look, which somehow still worked, even with the sunglasses. I would gladly trust Hinata with my life. She and I are a lot alike, except for the Kyuubi. What about him? Yugito nodded at Arishin. Same thing. I don't like your attitude much. If you want me to take you seriously about joining the Leaf, I suggest you stop questioning my friend's trustworthiness. Arishin now joined them. He had heard everything, as he secured all three of the ninjas. We should get going. The longer we wait, the better chance these guys have of recovering and escaping. Naruto nodded and created shadow clones. They each grabbed one of the bound ninjas, and carried them off to the prison. They'll be safe there, until an Anbu team can come get them. He turned to Yugito. Well, if you're coming, let's go. Naruto and Hinata walked off. Arishin stayed and watched Yugito, who was looking at Naruto like he was a fool. Her frosty glance turned to Arishin. What? You going to move, or shall I carry you? Just keep away from me, human. I don't trust your kind one bit. She hurried off, while Arishin watched her. Okay. That was interesting. Inferno's deep voice rumbled in his head. She has deep mistrust of humans. I can't say I blame her in some cases. Having been betrayed by humans, is she likely to trust them again? But not all humans are untrustworthy. Just like all Jinchurikis aren't trustworthy. You and I know that. You just need to help her see that. Great. Arishin muttered under his breath, as he followed them. He didn't notice the wind which blew, or the leaf-like paper that floated on the wind far above his head. The paper blew over to a secluded part of the town, and formed into a woman with blue hair, wearing a black cloak with red clouds. A man waited for her there. He wore the same cloak as her. His hair was red, and a number of piercings decorated his face. His eyes were gray, with numerous rings leading to a black pupil. Behind him were several other men, and another woman, with similar eyes and piercings. What did you see? The Kyuubi and the Nibi are traveling together. We should be able to get them both in the woods. I sensed another power, but was unable to determine what it was. It doesn't matter. We shall get the power which has eluded us. And even without them, we still have our backup plan. But, won't. Do not worry. I will deal with him, if it comes to that. The 7 of them suddenly disappeared, leaving the area as quiet as it was before.